I'm so thrilled for another episode of Teresa Unfiltered. While I introduce very slowly Gaia, so we let people coming into our life step by step, okay? Um, First of all, I created the Teresa Unfiltered to have honest conversations and to dig a little bit deeper about questions that a lot of us have, but maybe sometimes we don't dare to ask or we don't know much about. And the topic of today is definitely a topic that I did not much know about, human design. And I learned that here in Substack are a lot of wonderful experts in human design. And human design might help you to understand if your response to life is either more emotional or is it more brain? Do you work fast in your answers or do you need more time? And I really did not know much about it until I had a wonderful and deep conversation with Gaia, who's my guest today. And as Gaia will explain herself much better than I sure do, she calls it coming home to yourself. And she also has recently done a free report that you can do on her page, is the free compass. And as the word compass says, I believe after having talked with her, human design is a great compass. So Gaia, please tell us a little bit about yourself, what brought you to human design, and about what you mean by the inner compass.
Wow, thank you, Teresa, for this invitation. I was so looking forward to it. So, my name is Gaia, and I'm a strategic mentor and coach for mainly women. And I use human design as a diagnostic tool and a guiding system to, as you said, help you come home to yourself. Because what I think is not what I think, what I know to be true about human design is that we come here with our own manual to how to navigate our own life. And then this inner knowing, this even genetic imprint that we have, is then covered by layers and layers of conditioning. When we grow up, what we learn from our family, what we learn to believe, the rules we create around how life should be lived. This is the conditioning layer. And then, of course, we have an experience layer that can be kind of trauma that happened to us, big or small trauma, doesn't matter. It's our experience that shapes around painful experiences where we say, I never want this to happen again to me. I never want this painful feeling to appear again in my life. That's another layer that we put on top, this manual.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea is to help people to come back to their own blueprint and use that, and that changes lives.
It really does. I mean, I sure have a lot of moments in my life that I do not want to go back towards. And I write about this here on Substack. But when we were in our conversation, Gaia, what struck me is that we went to, like, tell us a little bit how this human design is built, what kind of personalities they are, so people understand like a little bit better. Because what I understand, it's not woo-woo, because there are so many things out there and people are very skeptical, right? And you don't have to be a lover of astrology to understand human design. That's, I think, very important here to say for people too, because you also use human design in your work to help, especially like women, understanding them better and connecting them better. So help us a little bit understand what types of people they are and what are like the number one thing that you would say this is important to look at when you have a design in front of you.
So first of all, to answer your question, what human design is more deeply is it is a combination of all the old ancient wisdom systems, the chakra systems, the I Ching, which is the oldest book on self-development, over 5,000 years old, and many more. But it's combined with modern science, even with quantum physics and genetic expression. That's what makes it so unique and interesting. And I must say, I understand everybody who is very skeptical when they hear first time about it, because I was too. I was like, oh, come on, please. This is a new labeling system and I don't want to have to do anything to do with it. The thing happens, the shift happens when you start applying it, even a little bit. And that brings us to your second part of the question, what we call in human design the types. There are 4 or 5 types, depends who you ask. But energy-wise, actually, there are 2 types. There are energy beings and there are non-energy beings. That's how we call them. And the difference is that energy beings, these are the generators, manifesting generators and generators. They have nearly consistent access to their own life force. They regenerate very quickly, which means I'm one, you're one. We're basically unstoppable in matters of energy.
For sure.
As long as, oh, hi, sisters and Erica and Mika. As long as we do what generators are supposed to do, and that is, we should only do what lights us up. Isn't that a perfect permission? Like, don't do what you don't like to do. Of course, that's not in the nitty-gritty daily things, but it makes so much sense that following, for instance, a career that is not fulfilling for 20 or 30 years can lead you directly to burnout, even if you have that consistent access to life energy, because you're wasting it. Now, the other side, the non-energy being, they don't have that consistent access to their own life force. With them, it comes and goes. And with them, that means they need a different kind of structure so that they get enough rest and recharge time. It's not that they can do less than generators. They just do it differently. They just do it differently. That's so important to understand, right? There is no type better than another.
It is so important. And after I learned, I had a conversation with you, I went on to understand what my husband is and what my kids are. And I'm basically like the only generator of the family. They all are manifestors, which is incredible. So I learned though that the energy comes and goes, right? It happens and flows, and I'm the only one who is here pushing through. But understanding that helps to really respect the other people in a different way, because we can't always project our own way of being on others. And I think that's the wonderful thing about human design, to understand exactly that, right?
Yes, totally. And I mean, if you have manifestor children, then you also probably have learned now that you better get out of their way when they are up to something, right? That the whole system of education with asking for permission or asking them to finish what they started is a totally waste of effort on a manifestor, because that's not how they are. So these are just little things that we can learn very easily and very fast from human design, and it helps even have a better, more harmonious energy in the family.
It really does. It really does. Because if you understand where it comes from, you say, okay, that's just what it is. Let's not change it, but let's embrace it. And I think that's for many, right? Oh, hi, Grace. That's so nice that you joined. I think it's for many moments in life super important to understand that. And since your work is also based around burnout and you help high achieving women to connect with themselves better again, how would you apply, or what is the typical way of like going into human design? Because I think it's important that we are still open and not think, as you write also about yourself, it's not putting yourself in a box. Like, you are not because of that way, but you are still outside the box, and it's not everything because of. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind. And how would you help the women who are so many high achievers, or maybe lived through a lot, through the human design, to reconnect with themselves, man and woman?
we actually go on a journey, right? And the first steps are to really understand what we're talking about here today is how is my energy wired? What do I need to have enough energy to do the things I want to do? And there are more. There is like the strategy, and then there is the inner authority, means how do I make correct decisions for myself? Because as I wrote yesterday in one of my notes, don't ask your mind ever to help you with decisions. The decisions must be body-based. That's where our decision system sits. And when we try to override it by being reasonable and making pro and con lists, etc., we're getting away from our own inner compass. And then later we sit there and we go like, why on earth did I say yes to this?
Yeah.
Right? I think we all know this feeling.
Yes, we really do. We really do. But so, as for example, me, who is a generator, who has a lot of energy all the time for things that I love, I learned though through really hard lessons to listen exactly to that. That often I give too much energy to a wrong project or to the wrong business partner, or like staying in situations so long that we're not good. And because I want to nurture, want to give, like that's literally also from what I understand in my human design, it's quite complicated because there are gates and then there are channels. Can you tell us a little bit who is joining us here today and like listening to this, really what it means if they want to understand a little bit more about what human design is? And then you get a report and then you see all like these channels and chakras and stuff like that, right? And I know that my is gut definition, so I know right away yes or no. And I wrote about article 2 about going back to your signal. But I also believe that it comes through really life experience that you get there, right? So for someone who maybe is also new to human design and they can understand because of it, they don't have to go through so much hardship, but they understand, okay, if something doesn't feel right, it's literally like in my human design to answer a certain way, right? So
yes.
Right.
Okay. There are two things that I feel. One is that human design gives you a clear understanding, and it comes through your feelings of when you're in alignment and when you're not. So for you as a generator, that would be frustration and joy or satisfaction. So if you start feeling frustrated for a longer time, that is a clear sign that you are not on your path. And that's something I so much appreciate from human design, because it is teaching us in such a simple way. Like all your manifestor family, their sign of not being in alignment is being angry.
Yeah.
Right? Because they feel held back.
I know that one.
So when that happens consistently, that tells them they have to have a conversation with you. For instance, right? My mom is trying to hold me back. I have to tell her. So these feelings are actually at the core of our compass, telling us I'm on the right path or I'm not. And I wouldn't agree that we get to these understandings over time, because if we do not understand and uncover our limiting beliefs and our blocks and our blind spots, then we're living inside an illusion. That's what I call in the box we've built through all these layers that I was talking about. And we have to get out of the box. So the feeling, for instance, is showing you when you're in the box and when you're out of the box, when you're on your path and when you're not. And then the last thing, as you said, I give too much energy to, for instance, the wrong business project. That is the third element, which I think is essential. Everybody should know about themselves. And that is, how do you make correct decisions? So for you, as you said, you're a sacral generator. That means you just listen to your gut feelings. You don't have to think things through. You don't have to wait. Now, you know in the moment. Your full body answer is there and you can feel that. Now, half of the population of the Earth is not like that. We are emotional. We have what we call emotional authority. And that can create tension in ourselves, because if my gut feeling says, oh yeah, this is a great idea, and I've lived that so many times, that from this enthusiasm, from the high of the emotional wave, I say yes to something. And then when it comes down and it comes to the moment to fulfill what I promised or said yes to, I sit there and I go like, why did I do this? This sucks, right? The thing is, when you have this emotional authority, you have to feel through all the feelings. I call it the roller coaster of feelings, because I would start with enthusiasm. Yeah, this is such a great project. And then maybe the next morning I go like, oh yeah, but it's a lot of work. I'm not sure I want that. Yeah, but it's good and it feels good and there's money in it. You know what I mean? So these voices in your head is not correct to say that, but it's the feelings that you go through.
Okay.
And you have to feel them all until that roller coaster gets calmer. It never stops completely. Emotional beings do not have certainty. We have just to say goodbye to certainty. But when it feels pretty calm, then we can, if our gut always says, yeah, that's good, or our whatever system we have, I'm talking mostly about generators because 70% of people are generators, but there are other configurations. But if our confirmation in the body says still yes, and then we're emotionally calm, that's the moment when it's good to say yes to something. And that would avoid, if you ask yourself, for instance, as a sacred generator, you could ask yourself, do I want to do this? And you go, yes. Do I have energy? Do I have enough energy for that? Maybe it says, no. And then you have to reconsider your decision. But as an emotional being, I have to go through all these feelings, the fears, the doubts, the enthusiasm, everything, until I get calm. That's emotional clarity.
Yes, and it's so beautiful because it's simply like two different ways for coming to the same decision. Because I went to projects and I was all in until I understood really fast that my energy was completely drained. So I left. Meanwhile, someone with your kind of answer would sleep above it and maybe not even go in it, because so it's in a way like the same, but obviously like very with a different path of going there. And I want to know from the people who joined, hi to all, if you know anything about human design and if you have questions, because we have this expert here. So it will be wonderful if you have questions. We are here to answer them. And in the meantime, which you just said is so interesting. So 70% are generators. What is then the rest?
Well, the other ones are manifestors, as your children and your husband, you said. And then we have the projectors. These are the advisors, the people who are, I think they are good advisors. We can say that. And then we have the reflectors. These are, sometimes we call them the unicorns, because there's only 1% of the population.
I never met one. Yeah.
That are reflectors. I have met a few actually, yes. But it is, they are completely different in their whole configuration, because they have all their centers open. I think that goes too far, because it's complicated to explain the differences. I don't want to go there.
Okay, that's totally fine. Can you just say something about these centers? Because we have been using a little bit this in our conversation. So I said also that my sacral center is the one that's more like, so what does this mean?
Okay, when you go and you get your first human design report, you will get a very weird thing which we call the body graph. And it, as you said, it has centers, some are colored, some are not. It has channels, it has gate. It looks really complicated. And when we look at the centers, what's happening here?
I'm seeing you.
You see me. Okay, I just everything went black. Okay, sorry for that.
No,
My
you
computer's
too.
playing
No, it's all good.
games with
It
me.
was a
Okay,
thing.
so let me just get back. So the centers, when we look at the centers, when we have them colored in, that means we have more consistent access to the energy of that center.
Mm-hmm.
And when they are white, we call them undefined. Then we are a little bit like a radio receiving the energy of the people around us.
Okay.
We sample them and we amplify them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have what I said, emotional authority, we have this emotional center, the solar plexus colored in. We have to ride our emotional wave to make correct decisions for us.
Mm-hmm.
When that center is open, we're actually not so strong emotional beings, but if we are around a lot of people who are very emotional, then we kind of absorb that and we become emotional.
Oh
And
my
we
God.
think it's ourselves, but it's not.
No.
We're just amplifying back to the people around us what's going on in these centers.
Yes. Yes.
And that's something pretty, you need to learn this, to understand this about yourself, because it's not only about the emotions. For instance, it's about the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
When the head centers are open, we might have so many ideas in our head that we cannot even capture everything because there's coming in so much.
So much.
Or we try to explain and find answers to questions that are not even ours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because these centers work like receptors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is the interesting and fascinating thing about human design, because we are these different types, but then to these types we have these centers, and each center will tell you if you are open or undefined.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, undefined or defined. So it's very, very fascinating, and I can really only recommend this to everybody who is listening here. Because as you said, Gaia, at the beginning, and what you write also about yourself is coming home to yourself, right?
Yes.
And we have really amazing people here that are joining us, and I'm so happy about this. So please ask us questions. Don't be shy. We are here talking, but please don't be shy. Is there something in human design, and I think that's like a question that people are so curious about, right? For example, the flaws, like if you want to talk about, right, like what are the strengths, what are your like flaws, is there something in human design that you would say is about that too, where you understand what your life path is, or where you're not so strong?
To some extent, everything is in your human design. So we don't call it the flaws, but we call it the strengths or even the superpowers that you may have. But and you find these in the channels and in the gates for a big part. But we must understand something, that these are all frequencies we live, and this is not a black or white game. So you have challenges in your design chart, but that doesn't mean that does only mean that you're here to learn these things.
Okay.
Right? So you have kind of a curriculum for this life about the things you're here to learn, and they show, for instance, in your open centers or in your undefined centers, and they show in certain gates, etc. And but I want to say something, because you asked me before, what should people know from their human design? And I must be very clear that what is in my report that you can get for free, and maybe you can put the link if you don't mind, is enough to start, is enough to know your type, your strategy, and your inner authority, means your decision-making compass. If you manage to implement these three things in your life, your life will change.
Wow.
And that takes time.
Okay.
That's not something you read and you go like, yeah, okay, now I know what to do.
No.
See, it needs practice.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely, like everything in life, right? And so we have a question by Erika. She's asking, loving this conversation, ladies. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Erika.
Any advice on what aspects of my human design to focus on as an entrepreneur? That's a great question. What more helpful to know, especially when studying in the human design world? Okay.
Yeah, that ties a little bit. Thank you, Erika. That ties a little bit into what I was saying right before. Human design can give you any information that you may want to know. So as an entrepreneur, what's interesting to know about is, for instance, your profile, which is your role in this world. And that ties to your brand, because our businesses, at least ideally, are an extension of ourselves. And not ideally, they are, because you are. And if you have a business, that business is a reflection of you, right? Now, if you know what your role is, that makes it easier. There also is your purpose.
Yeah.
So your life's work, what balances you, what is your natural brilliance. There is your true voice. There is your communication, how you communicate. There is your ideal client. There is your life path. Your superpowers, as I said before. So what are your strengths? Is everything. There are more than 150 things that I could pull quickly for you, which would be totally overwhelming. And nothing of these things work if you do not have in place type, strategy, and authority, which is the basics. If you go against your energy,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Even if you know your purpose and your ideal client and everything, if you don't do it, if you don't practice honoring your energy, you will be constantly exhausted.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
What it does make sense, and what I learned, so Erika, when I had my conversation with Gaia, what I learned is, for example, I asked her a very similar question as you just did in the chat, and what I learned through my chart was that bridge building, community, like everything that I've been doing, right? It's literally it comes so easy. You'll understand when you are in your human design, because things really flow and they come easy to you. And for me, for example, when I write, which is also my human design, it was just a confirmation of it, is that for me the best thing is if I write about lived experience. And it's exactly what I did here from day one. And I think this is why it's also come so easy to me, because I'm not thinking about selling a product like a cell phone, like for some people that might come very easy. For me, it really doesn't, because everything I do comes from that part. And the human design showed it in a really fascinating way. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because I hope for you guys, this can really help you a lot to understand your superpowers and powers, like you said it really nice, Erika.
And I lost my train of thought in the middle of the thought. Oh, I'm so sorry. I wanted to say, yes, what you said just about, there is this part of recognition, right? So it's not that we did everything wrong and then we discover human design and then we course correct. There is a big part where we say, oh, this is why this way is easy for me to do, or this is why I need so much alone time, because I need to protect my energy, or because I have this part in me that needs to be a hermit. All these things are informations that then we recognize and go like, as you said, I did this my whole life. This is who I am and how I am.
And you really understand when it flows as an entrepreneur, right? Like when the business doesn't go in a direction that you want to. Of course, it's business, and sometimes it takes time. But if you keep working and still things don't go the way you want to, then do a little check, because means that maybe you are like not in your, what are the three things again? The type,
strategy, and the inner authority.
That's it. Yes, that's
Yes, absolutely. That's true. That's true.
Yes. Do we have another question? Let's see. Oh, hi, Odile. We have really amazing people who are joining us today. I'm so happy about that, really. All right. It sounds that we don't, but for everybody who joined, Erica, would you please mind, because I have your link in my chat with you. Can you just put it here in the chat so people can go? Oh, we have. I took the Myers-Briggs. I wanted to know more about myself because I didn't have a good mirror or clear path. This is interesting. Hi, Mika. This is so interesting because I used the Myers-Briggs. I did it, and I used it also in my coaching together with other personality. And one of the first things when I had my talk with Gaia was exactly that. So that's a great question. Gaia, let you answer this.
Yes, thank you. I love this question because it comes all the time. It's so important. The difference between human design and Myers-Briggs is when you answer the questions in the Myers-Briggs, and I've done them, of course, as well, you answer them from the mind and from your conditioning. You don't answer them from your true self. While human design shows you your true self and helps you recognize it and helps you understand and then move towards it. That's the difference. So actually, I think Myers-Briggs can lead you completely away from yourself.
Mm. Well, it gives you the four, like it gives you, right, the introvert, the extrovert, the judger, and the reflector. Like it gives you a little bit of insights for sure. But an extrovert is not always an extrovert, and I think this is like the misleading path. You can still be an introvert, but then when it shows extrovert, you think, well, why? So I think that's the misleading path of the Myers-Briggs. It gives you the good insights. But as you just beautifully said, Gaia, the human design really shows you who you are and you're not conditioned. And I think that's a beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah, that's coming back to understanding who you really are and identifying also, like if I would say, let me just think quickly of something. Okay, let's say I've learned that people cannot be trusted. Actually, I'm writing a report about the fears by design, and I was writing about that today, so this is why it comes up. So if I believe that people cannot be trusted as a general rule because, for instance, my father was ruined by some crooks and then something else happened that confirmed that. So when I grew up, I learned from his cynicism and his remarks that people cannot be trusted. But I learned it at such an early age that I'm not aware of it. So I just run around with this belief that people can't be trusted. Now, if with this attitude, might not be the best example, but if with this attitude I go to a Myers-Briggs test and I answer the questions as someone who believes that people can't be trusted, I cannot uncover that as a misleading, limiting belief.
Yes, very, very true. Wow, that's so insightful. And you guys, we have time for one last question. So if you want to put it here, put it now. Please put your link for the free report in the chat so people who joined today can do that. And you can subscribe or follow, obviously, like here on Substack. I hope this really was for all of you a great conversation that gave you insights. Maybe you knew already about human design, maybe you did not. And I hope that you all learned something today. I surely really enjoy these conversations and the community here, and I'm really thankful. And I'm looking forward for the next Teresa Unfiltered, which will be from Saudi Arabia.
Whoa!
That's life. And this was the last one from Rome to me, and I'm up for my next adventure in my human design. There's also a lot about that. And you guys, here's the link. Please look in the chat. You can see the link and you can download your free report made by Gaia of your human design, and you can maybe comment also after the live what type you are. Would love to know that. Yes, okay. So keep coming with the comments and questions, and thank you, Gaia, for joining today and for sharing your wisdom with us and answering so beautifully to all the questions. And thank you to everybody who joined the live today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I so much enjoyed our conversation today. And yes, anybody who has more questions or wants to share something with me directly, of course, you can also DM me if this is something you don't want to share on the public posts. But yes, we can't wait to hear how you liked the report and what this conversation changed for you today. Thanks for taking the time. It's a Sunday evening here for us. So it's really something very special that you sat with us today, and I'm so happy.
Wonderful. Okay, super. Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.